Thank you, Dr. Namo, and good evening to everybody who has joined us to this session. I'm going to try and squeeze in a lot of stuff in the 1 hour, but also we'll try to also give you some examples at the end of proposals that have gone through in the last couple of years with some of our students, just as a way of giving a bit of picture to the possibility that exists, that it's not only possible for you to attain whatever qualification that you're working at, but I think the most important part of the journey is the work of conceptualizing a proposal. Interestingly enough, it's not only proposals for academic qualifications that get vetted out for their merit as academics at different stages that we will have to be engaged in a process of writing a proposal one way or the other. It could be a research proposal for a grant that you're applying for. It could be a proposal in the form of an idea that you're wanting to write a book or to host a special issue for a journal. It could be even a portfolio, such as the portfolio that concerns your promotion. So you'll find that through the journey as we navigate as academics, business people, whatever fraternity that you belong to, you are expected to be engaged in a proposal. I just wanted to gauge from the audience that is here so that I also know a picture of where some of us are. And maybe just quickly, how many are working on proposals either for PhD studies or a master's study, or honors, or any form of postgraduate qualification where a proposal is needed? Any takers? And I think it's important for me, okay, I see a hand, Charity. Charity, would you like to just unmute and just tell us what you're working on and a bit of context so that we can get a picture of who you are?
My name is Charity. I'm a student with Lupane State University studying towards my master's degree in human resource management. So we're currently in the process of writing a proposal for our research topics. So that's what I'm currently working on.
Great. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Anybody going for a PhD?
Okay.
All right. Nobody? Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Prof.
Good evening.
I am Mrs. Madova from Walter Sisulu University. I don't know whether we are allowed to voice out our concerns as well. I'm currently busy with my PhD.
Okay, you are allowed, ma'am, to voice out. Yes, you're currently busy with your PhD. Is it at proposal stage or you have already defended?
I have not already defended, but it is going to be submitted to the committee on Friday.
Yes. Oh, this coming Friday. And then
yes,
I'm assuming thereafter you present, or is it
yes,
a different? Okay, great.
With Northwest University.
All right, brilliant. So we've had a picture from Charity. Anybody else? Don't be shy, people. It also helps so that we get a picture of who's here and the level at which we can pitch some of the content.
Hey, thank you so much, Prof.
Yes, good evening, Elton.
Okay, I'm not Elton, I'm Victor Shumba. We're just sharing this terminal with Elton.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so with me, I had started my PhD with NAST, but there were some issues and I stopped along the way, and I'm looking forward to resurrect what I had started and see if I can get a place to register my PhD. But I'm still at the proposal. I defended though, but it's something that I still need to look at, seeing that I'm not currently engaged with any university.
All right, great. And the discipline, would you give an indication which area?
Okay, it's strategic management.
Strategy, okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else?
Okay, good evening, Prof.
Good evening.
Yes, it's Elton Wakira.
All right.
Yes, I am a PhD student with University of Western Cape. And then I have submitted my proposal.
Great. And which discipline are you in?
Industrial psychology.
Oh, okay. Okay. Are you working with Mayembe?
Yes, that's my supervisor.
All right. All right.
Yeah,
Good
you
for
once presented something that was last year in, is it in October or November?
Yes.
About qualitative research. I was there
Yes,
actually.
in the
Yes.
to the UWC class. Okay, I remember.
Yes.
I also acknowledge some of our experienced colleagues who have also gone through the stage. If I'm correct, the Dr. Lucy Chamba is here. I also see Professor Shepard Mpofu is also here. So where I err, colleagues will rightfully put me back into line. And also importantly, let's be there having been people who have gone through the process. Okay, I've got a picture and
Prof?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, good evening, Prof. Good evening, colleagues. My name is Maroja. Yes, Prof, you have tutored me before. I am doing DBL and I've submitted the proposal. They are yet to come. And I'm looking at something in governance.
Okay,
Thank you.
I remember you very well. Yeah, with MSU.
Say correct.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I've put my details on the screen there. Predominantly, the colleagues that we have here are within the ambit of psychology, work psychology, human resources, strategic management, the management sciences, and other disciplines that are here. What I'm going to share with you is no way meant to be set in stone to say this is the best way of working around a proposal. In fact, it becomes very difficult if we are going to be very prescriptive about it to say in the era of ChatGPT that we are living in, where you can easily go to a computer and it can easily come up with a path and a sequence that you can follow in writing a proposal. I have found that the proposal is the most important part of any journey that you are undertaking. Now, I say so because I've gone back to school. I had to humble myself in some cases, even though as a senior staff member, to go to another university to study for another qualification. And I've had to do the proposal. I write proposals almost every day for grant funding. So the proposal is an important part, an integral part of the work that we try to do as academics. It becomes also important because it is one of the surest ways that you have to sell your ideas to a committee. Now, depending on the different universities that are represented here, at my institution, the proposal first gets the green light from the supervisor. And then from the supervisor, it gets the green light from the what we call the faculty higher degrees committee, if it's at master's, PhD level. And it gets the green light, it goes on through relevant committees and structures. Now, in some institutions, the ability to be able to go and defend your proposal is actually not there. The document should go and speak to itself, to whatever panel that you are working with. In other institutions, they give you an opportunity as a person who has written the proposal to go and defend your work. Now, the trick that somebody taught me is that try and make sure that at all costs that your document speaks for itself. I've seen it a lot in some of the committees I sit in where a student can come to present. Two things can possibly happen, three things. The first scenario, they will have an excellent proposal on paper, but in terms of the articulation verbally and presentation-wise, they are not able to articulate themselves. Then the second scenario is they will have a very bad proposal on paper, but they articulate themselves so well. And then the third scenario is a possible scenario where they come to this committee and they are just perfect. The document is perfect, the technical adherence is good. Yeah, and that's just the reality that we face in. So what I'm firstly going to run through are some basic stuff in some literature that I have consulted. And I usually do this course at the start of the year to all my new students. But importantly, at the end, what I'm going to do is to flag an example of a proposal in the management sciences, which would be different from the social sciences, the natural sciences, and so forth. But ideally, what we want you to be able to come away with from this session is the ability to be able to know some of the crucial skills that are needed in defending or putting together a proposal, both on paper and defending it. And importantly, what are some of the issues of scientific concern that a proposal must address? So do not see this as prescriptive, but try and see it as addressing a generic sense of an understanding of what proposals writing is about. Look, I'm consulting a range of old books that we use as foundational when I teach a course in research methods. The purpose of a proposal is really giving suggests a looking forward to what the researcher plans to do in the future. So at the mercy of the committee, really, you are trying to be futuristic. And Stellenbosch University is now as a program that it's running on future studies. And one of the interesting thing about that course at master's PhD level about future studies, it's really trying to train scenario planners about possibility of them understanding or anticipating change for the sake of the future. And for me, that's always fascinating because the document you are working on is a document that not only tells us where you are in understanding the current literature, but it also tells us something about where you are planning to take yourself in view of some of the steps that are fundamental to the process that you're about to engage in. So it engages you on trying to articulate to the reader a clear problem statement for your research. It tells us clearly where your research is going to be conducted, the steps that you're going to take in conducting the research, the aspects that you envisage as crucial to the process that you're about to engage in. It is a document, so it is not an opportunity which you have to try and present where you are not given, where it's only, the document should be able to speak for itself. So what happens in this regard is that you must be able to put the ideas succinctly, clearly on paper, so that there's no iota of doubt or a cloudiness that may exist around what it is that you're going to do. But importantly, do not see the proposal as a way of going through the door. Importantly, yes, you need to go through the door, but the proposal is also there to tell you which door is open or can potentially be opened and which door you should avoid in terms of the path that you want to take. And I say this respectfully because a lot of times we have scenarios where people are seeing the proposal in a combative manner as not helping to achieve what you are working towards. A proposal, a committee, a good committee that looks and listens to your proposal is not there to tell you, no, you're not going ahead, go back and refine your ideas. That committee's burden is really a burden of saying, we want to help you so that you can see which door you can possibly enter in. And that moves away from the more fighting-based approach that often some academics have engaged in, particularly on matters of the proposal. So the proposal is structured. So one of the most important things you must then ask your supervisor in whatever institution that you're working in is to find out what is the structure that you're going to follow. What does the structure of a proposal at that particular institution, how does it look like? And how can you possibly put together that particular structure to inform whatever it is that you want to achieve? So structure is necessary because structure helps you to also see what is expected in terms of the feedback that is given to people and to you as a candidate. And that's Smith's contribution. So a proposal really delves around the idea of the seen and the unseen. In most cases, we like to see some form of an understanding of what is in the seen. And what do I mean? You may not be sure entirely what the statistics around the phenomena might be reading. So instead of writing in your proposal, I am not aware of what the current statistics are. That is more defeatist in nature. You could frame it in a way that is also supportive of the idea of the necessity of the research. You could frame it in a way of saying research is inconclusive around the phenomena of community-based approaches to violence. And there, what you have done is you politely have shielded yourself while at the same time trying to build up to the necessity of the research that you're going to be doing. You need to ask yourself to say, of what benefit is this proposal to, or this topic that I'm studying, to the wider community that I'm supposed to service? My colleague, Professor Mpofu, I would say to you, one of the most unfortunate experiences I had was yesterday when an emerging scholar wrote to me about a predicament that they had. They had submitted an application for rating. And then the feedback came back from the panel that was supposed to evaluate the proposal of this candidate. And the feedback was very, very brutal. It was so brutal to the extent that the reviewers were so scathing. You are publishing in soft journals. You should be more focused concerning these hard journals. And the idea of soft and hard, by the way, is a very subjective experience. I will use a meal that we all like, which is sadza or pap. Some of you would like your pap with chicken. Some of you would like it with beef. Some of you would just like it with vegetables. It really is a subjective experience. So now when I sit as a reviewer, listening to your proposal, I bring my subjectivity to the process of listening to your work. And that's an important thing. When I bring my subjectivity is also based upon my understanding of the literature that you're working in, but it's also based on my experience. So I will probably travel in time and remember the time when I defended my proposal and how hard I worked and some of the mistakes I made, and those mistakes I made appear on your document. So I then start projecting that which I have experienced onto your work. And this is the caution that I say to everybody, even when I do a course on how to write and publish, to say there are two things about academia. It is very subjective and it is very political. If you can master the two, you will survive and you live longer. The subjectivity part is to accept that there are many voices and ways of understanding to a topic. The issue of politics is that sometimes the font that you just used in the proposal in itself can tick somebody off who's supposed to be viewing your work, and that then becomes the mainstay of what their evaluation is going to be based on. Be very cautious. Understand what the rules are, have a leg to stand on. If at least your committee at your institution says the document must be 15 pages, including references, it must be Times New Roman, do not give the committee opportunity to major in trivial issues outside the proposal. Should I put, sometimes you see a proposal which has border pages on all the pages of the proposal. There are things that you should just avoid so that people can, it's a work of impression management, so that people are not taken away from the core values of what you want to do. We want you to convince us of the ability to deliver research. Now, at 2 levels, particularly because we're dealing with master's and PhD students. At master's level, the last I checked, the test is on your ability to show your examiner that you can conduct independent research. At PhD level, the ability is to show a unique contribution to the body of knowledge. Now, on another day, we can talk about what is meant by contribution. How does contribution come about? But if you know what the end result is or what is expected of you, it can actually help you fashion out what you want to achieve. So we need to also demonstrate value for money. You being here tonight and not being with your families is a cause of concern. You must be able to show a level of accountability to the people who have invested a lot for you to be where you are in terms of time, effort, to show that a value for money. How do you show that value for money? Well, let's produce a document, let's progress, subjective as it may be, political as it may be, it's about selling your ideas. Convey the first impression of genuine interest and understanding and enthusiasm in your work. An important point, I have sat in committees where the student is not even excited about the topic that they are engaging in. They are literally disinterested in the topic. And it gets you to ask a question to say, well, if you're not interested in your own topic and it's supposed to be a topic for your own PhD and your own master's, what does it say about you? So develop an interest. Later on, I will tell you one of the cardinal things that you shouldn't do. Never, ever go to your supervisor and say, supervisor, give me a topic to do for my master's or for my PhD. Rather be engaged in a process of trying to build the topic together with the supervisor, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So a futuristic attempt really is what the proposal seeks to do, and positioning the importance of what the researcher is about. Now, this is a simplified model of research, considering also it's for the quants approach, where we move from the pre-empirical to the empirical stage. And at each of those stages, really, it's about trying to show a grasp and a level of understanding currently what is happening in the literature, what do you plan to do, and how do you plan to do it? And this is taken from Punch, and a very useful framework and methodology that is used. At my institution, and it could be different at different institutions, a typical proposal looks like this. It has an introduction and a background. The research problem is outlined, the objectives or the aims. We then go to the question, the significance of the study. We then set the hypothesis or the prepositions if it's qual. We have a literature review that covers the conceptual literature, the theoretical literature, and the empirical literature. That can be another workshop on its own. We then talk about the methodology and the design, your population and sampling. How are you going to conduct the research? Strategies, if it's quant, reliability and validity. If it is qualitative, strategies to ensure integrity, your ethical aspects, your delimitations, and your outline of the chapter. Now, I said it differs. You need to consult your institution. Predominantly, it also differs according to discipline. So what we're going to do now is to look at some of these issues and asking some important questions. In my years as an academic, I could be asked the question, what is a successful proposal? Well, a successful proposal, let me be honest to say, does not exist. Because I believe the process of writing a proposal in itself is not an objective process. It is a very subjective process. And because it's subjective, you need to allow for the subjectivity to come in with declarations of where the subjectivity comes in. There are things that at least we expect. And if you notice, the first three words start with the issue of clarity. Clarity around what it is that you want to do. Remember, at the start, we always start with bold, grand, ambitious ideas. And what we are calling people to think about is to think about narrowing those bold, ambitious, grand ideas, to narrow them to speak to a specific phenomena and a specific angle that is warranted as an angle that this research is going to occupy. And you also get supervisors telling you that, asking you questions, what is it that you want to do? You know, I often sit with students at the start of the proposal stage, and we write down or the student gets to write down the ideas of what they want to do. And then a couple of months or years into the project, if it's a PhD, like today, this afternoon, I had a meeting with two of my PhD students. We then reflect on what the initial idea we started off with and where we are currently. You will see that sometimes the ideas are day and night, because a lot of work has happened in the process, a lot of personal work and a lot of improvement of the idea has happened to try and assist you. So clarity is important as an initial part. Grammar is also important. It's not a must. Yes, it must be written in English, but try and make sure that, remember, we said the process is subjective. You are writing your proposal for people who are using the British system, and then you keep spelling the word organization with a Z, the American way. There are things that you must do to try and help with issues of grammar. In another workshop, we can talk about even how do you write sentences, where we actually show you little tricks that I've learned about sentence construction in an idea. How do you establish in academia? How do you establish flow, the flow from one idea to the other? So ambiguities or uncertainties make the proposal difficult to follow. It makes it difficult to read. And if it's like that, it's likely going to be given a lower rating. I have seen proposals where after the committee has read, they've requested the candidate to say, please, before you resubmit this, you need to send it to a language editor. So what I do nowadays, even for my grant applications, I've got a trusted panel of academic critical readers and language editors that I pay to be able to read the work that I'm writing. And some will say, well, it should come perfectly and natural as you go on. I just think there are some things you can't leave to chance. And if some people are trained in the issue of language, grammar, take them to it. And yeah, sometimes people say, well, I'll use Grammarly. There's a software called Grammarly. Grammarly can work and assist, but sometimes it also can miss out certain things. So just the lesson here is try and make sure that your proposal is free from any ambiguities and uncertainties. A proposal by nature, if it's to be successful, if there's ever anything called a successful proposal, it's novel, and it's got an impact, which is a high impact research focus. Now, this is a question of a debate in some cases to say what constitutes high impact, and it's a workshop in itself. But in this case, my framing and understanding of high impact is not so much about where it is published. It is about the contribution that the proposal is about to make. And I give you an example. A couple of years ago, we worked on a project with a colleague of mine where we were looking at women in the informal sector. And at that particular time, we wrote our paper and we sent it to a number of journals. It got rejected in a lot of the international journals because the idea of informality, the idea of being a side hustle and trying to make things work in those particular contexts may not have been received with the resonance. But when we started writing the journal and started sending it to the article and started sending it to contexts where the informal sector is on the growth, Brazil, India, the African markets, the emerging markets, we noticed that even with the first go, the paper was never rejected. It started receiving, even other research started receiving attention. So the notion of high impact for me, it's not about an American journal, or it's about the contribution that research is trying to make. And that's what we're needing to encourage people to think of the work that they are going to do as occupying that remit of what high impact is all about. Successful proposals have a clear workable plan, they are structured, they have a good grounding theoretically, conceptually, and empirically, and they also show evidence of good writing. Successful proposals by nature are different to bad proposals because bad proposals sometimes are rushed, and the challenge often happens for some students is that they are running out of time because funders are demanding progress reports. So I need to show my funder that I have progressed and I have made progress with the research. So what do I end up doing? I end up putting pressure even on my supervisor to say, supervisor, push me. We need to make it to the end. And so we notice that sometimes these proposals become highly ambitious, and also narrowly focused. They are everywhere. They are unclear. They are confounded even in contradictions in themselves. In one part, you say unemployment is on the rise, and then on the other part, you say unemployment is being controlled at. So there is necessity for some discipline-specific contribution is missing or not stated well. It becomes very crucial at the PhD stage because most PhD committees will not pass you unless the proposal shows that clear contribution or gap that proposal is going to, project is going to fill. So uninspired, really, they are everywhere, but not going anywhere. So the proposal basics, therefore, of these bad proposals, they negate the discipline in which they are supposed to be operating in. If you're a public management scholar, the discipline is not addressed at all. The methods and the procedures are unclear. The theoretical or conceptual foundation is missing. The problem is not clearly, any of those things missing really would warrant possibility of you being given the chance to rework the proposal. At my institution, when you come to present at a committee, there are 5 possible outcomes. We do quite a lot for a committee. The first one, let's start with the bad ones. Right at the bottom, number 5, rejected. Okay, I have seen 1 or 2 rejected. Number 4, resubmit with presentation. In other words, even though you've taken time to present to us, we want to see you back to present, including making the changes. Number 3, resubmit without presentation. So we just want to check the document. You don't have to come and present in person. Just check the document, and then we'll give it a green light. Number two, the proposal is accepted and you make changes to the satisfaction of your supervisor. In most cases, that is the best possible outcome you can get. If you are brilliant and good at what you do, you can get a number one, which I've never seen. There is no need to make changes. The proposal is accepted in its format and we go on with the way it is. So we need to make sure that we get you as close as possible to the satisfaction of your supervisor and even the committee, so that you'll be able to go ahead. So what are some of the elements? And I'll show you a little bit when we're about to end, some focus areas that you should look at. Some of the elements that should be in a proposal is a literature review. You need to conduct what is known as a systematic literature review, an understanding of where the literature is and what the literature is saying. In my current role, I'm working with some students right now, working on projects of academic writing and so forth. One of the things I've picked up about the students, they tell me straight up is that, can we not study a book? Can we just study the slides that you give us? We just want the slides. Unfortunately, at master's, PhD, and even at honors level, you must do the groundwork. We have a lot to thank. Nowadays, we've got platforms like ResearchGate. Libraries are able to subscribe to local and international journals. You must be able to do the hard groundwork of reading. It's also tough sometimes because some of us are practitioners. We're coming from the practical world of business. And here you are, you're going to be reading about Porter, you're going to be reading about Grant, you're going to be reading about Alfred Chandler, you're going to be reading about Henry Mintzberg. All of that, for some people, it can be daunting. For starters, I will tell you one of the challenges I had to go through in postgraduate studies was I found it difficult to read journal articles. Literally, when I read journal articles, it was a sure recipe of falling asleep or yawning because I didn't enjoy it. And until I picked up also techniques from very dedicated academics who taught me how to read a journal article. So we must also be cognizant that ideas can come from different places, from the literature review itself. Sometimes, even if it's a concern, our practitioner experience when we as practitioners are coming from the outside world into the academic world, sometimes ideas can come from credible sources that may be non-academic, but they're credible in just giving you an idea. Supervisors also have research interests. I was talking to one of the colleagues here. If you mention an institution and you mention a discipline, if you say a particular institution and a discipline, I am likely to mention a name of an academic who's there because I now know academics according to the areas that they specialize in. So those are places where ideas come from. I also think that the biggest place where these ideas should also come from is from you reading and understanding and conducting a systematic literature review so that you know what is going on. So research problems by nature are important. You can scan through and read published and unpublished research. You can ask questions as you read this research. Sometimes you can deliberately disagree as a way of generating an idea. Look for gaps in explanations or accepted principles. In the current work that we are doing around an understanding of remote working, we just published research around remote working. In most of the cases, remote working was just framed as either fitting in or fitting out of the bottom line of what we call the people, the profits, and the environment. In the work that we are producing, we are noticing that the concern with remote working is not necessarily the challenge around work-life balance and so forth, but is the blurring lines that remote working creates, that anybody can pick up the phone and call you at any time. And we're developing that as an idea that, look, in our understanding of remote working, these are the other things we want to do. So you can ask questions deliberately about where a line of thought and a line of thinking is going as a way of generating ideas. Some of the things that we expect in the proposal are your research questions, which really tell us some form of meaning around your particular area that you want to do. And I think this comes about from actually associating them with the problem statement, looking through and reading through others people's work. And I'm going to show you examples later on. So conduct a literature review, a systematic literature review, read broadly around the topic. The number 3 point there, 10 to 15 journals, it's just the recommendations. Some people read more, some people even read less. I'm not going to say 10 is the magic number. The idea is look at what other people have done, how does it relate to your topic, and then critique those ideas that they've presented. Where are the gaps, where are the strengths? And when we say critique, we're not only saying just criticize. Some politicians nowadays, so-called political analysts, you know, when it's this political analyst on radio or TV, they're just going to be criticizing. But the best form of commentary comes when you're in the opposition, because you can just say, this work is not good, but find ways of also praising where the work is good, but also trying to locate where your work is going to fit in. I'm going quickly because I really want to show you some examples later on. So in your critique of the literature, find out what are the main theories, what are the concerns with those theories. I'm interested in these days around the notion of decent work. So the common theory that is applied with decent work is the psychology of working theory and the PWT, and that's a theory that we read. So when I read a decent work article, I look at how the authors of that particular paper have addressed the issue of decent work, considering the angle of the psychology of working theory. So the literature review is really trying to make you be familiar with your field of study. It's giving you a context, as broad as it may be. It's helping you to develop your ideas or even tell you some methodological aspects that are of common interest. My PhD, for instance, I did it in the UK. And one of the things which was fascinating when I did the PhD at a time when the dominant methodological orientation towards generating understanding in the work psychology realm was around the positivist paradigm. I used stories within organizations to be able to generate narratives, and from those narratives deduce meaning to how those narratives inform our understanding of reality, but also our understanding of the issues that are at stake in organizational theory. So literature reviews can tell you so much about your topic. They can also tell you how the topic has been done and give you possible angles of what you can do to actually build up the work that you're going to do. I've identified some steps there of conducting a literature review. We won't go through them, but when you go through the slides, you'll be able to see. I know number 6 is an important one, having studied also at the then University of Port Elizabeth. Universities now dedicate librarians for the different types of faculties that they have. So I know very well, I knew the librarian for our faculty. Whenever I needed help to access journals and databases, that was also a good part. So one of the things of good proposal writing is also relationship management, working well with support staff to be able to assist you to do the work that you're supposed to do, which is producing a proposal. But importantly, we must also address how you're going to do the research, what we call the methodology. Now, generically in the management and commerce psychology field, we place emphasis on the method, your population and your sample, the instrumentation, and also the procedures of how the data is collected. Finally, there needs to show some of rigor in terms of the integrity aspects. What steps have you taken to ensure integrity and the reliability and the validity? We also talk about the content of the proposal, which deals with ethical issues. It becomes important. I sit on the ethics committee at my institution. It's a way really of trying to show to the committee, your supervisor, and all concerned that your issue, your proposal adheres to some ethical guidelines that are set out. We've emphasized also the necessity for delimitations, which are things that you acknowledge as influencing your work, but you may not necessarily be interested in measuring them, but you give them the credit that they deserve. And we're going to look at some of those. So I want to quickly finish the slides and then show you two examples, one at master's level and the other at PhD level of some of my students. Plagiarism should be avoided. A few weeks ago, we were woken up to some news of a prominent professor who was accused of plagiarizing a prospective or a student's work. And I use that as rich case study material just to inspire you so that you don't do that. Please, please, please. Sometimes plagiarism happens when we leave the work that we're supposed to do a little bit too late. So try and work within time in making sure that your work covers what is actually happening. So what I have presented in the last few minutes is then linking to what I said in the topic, 10 tips for the summit. Number one, be organized, show some project management skills. Number two, relationship management with your supervisor, with the people, the support services, the outside stakeholders, the body of knowledge. It's also, you have to be relating with them as well. Writing skills, including critical thinking, are necessary. The use of templates to get an expectation of what is expected of you can be useful. Personal mastery, don't rush the process. The struggle of study, somebody was explaining to us a few minutes ago of their journey, registering from one institution, dropping out. That struggle in itself is also part of the journey. Consult widely, not just people, but also literature sources. It won't be perfect. Remember, I said it is not only a subjective process, but it is a political process. But you must show some level of organization. Expect to receive feedback. It may be good feedback or bad feedback. Now, this also happens not just with proposals, but in the academic career itself. You will get feedback, positive, negative. Try seeing the end in mind as you work. Envisaging graduating. For some, wearing the red gown. That's also a nice end in mind. Sometimes the end in mind is the status that comes with the accomplishment. Sometimes you have to be very honest. I just got my PhD, and by then I was using the title doctor. So the institution booked me for a trip to Cape Town, and they wrote on the ticket and my title doctor and so forth. And then we were flying with SAA. I got onto the flight, and then the lady who was checking me in says, "Oh, I'm so glad that we have a medical doctor on this flight, because if anything happens, we're going to be so comforted that we know we have a medical doctor here. We're going to make sure we give you extra space. So we're giving you an aisle, a seat where you can have extra leg movement." And yeah, it comes with the praise, the accolades, the moments of achievement, publishing a book, publishing a paper, the idea that you're contributing to the end, the knowledge, the idea that your promotion and your mobility in your academic career depends upon this. Number 9 simply says, try and see the end in mind as you struggle and appreciate that all of that is meant to help you. But importantly, please, please, please try and devote time and effort to the work. And I think I want to thank the organizers, Dr. Mashavira and your colleagues at Lupane, for coming up with ideas of sessions such as these, because they really help to empower and assist the individual. Now, quickly, in the next 5 minutes, then we close, I want to show you some proposals that you can have a look at. And I understand we also have some master's students that are here with us. I hope my master's proposal here will open. It's not opening. Okay, okay, let's open the PhD one. So basically, I need to restart my computer, but let's open the PhD one. You have a look now. Obviously, I put myself on the firing line because I'm showing you some work of one of my students. By the way, she was a first-year student last year for her PhD, and she successfully defended the proposal at department level, at faculty level, has applied for ethical clearance, and is now starting her second year in her PhD. So what I'm going to show you is the version of the proposal that we ran through Turnitin, and you just notice some of the headings that we have used.
Okay, all right.
And so here are some of the elements that we can look at in the proposal that I'm going to show you. An introduction section, which in the management sciences, we try to make sure that the introduction section is aligned to a background of the study. And this is an opportunity where you can then locate the contextual issues. And I sometimes find it interesting when people submit work and they fail to locate these contextual considerations. So the background of the study offers us a context in which we can actually are able to see where this research is coming from. This was a study done last year, the emphasis on recent literature sources. The background part, you can see clearly the South African part comes out in the work. And then little lines and statements that you can write after writing all of this. However, SMMEs in South Africa face business challenges that stem from a competitive and rapidly changing uncertain business environment. They cite in Ndlovu there. The size of the small business often poses the challenges it also affects growth prospects. Such growth prospects therefore then constrain the performance of the business. With that alone, you can actually see where the research is going. So the trick with the writing is this: try and throw little hook lines as you write. Don't just throw all your ideas or throw yourself all at once. Try and throw hook lines so that people latch onto those and see where you're coming from and where you are. And so that's what she does in this section by citing a range of African scholars. And then in this proposed research, the focus is on 3 key issues. So she now delineates the exact issues that she's concerned about: dynamic capabilities within organizations, the issue of organizational learning as a possible mediator between some of these dynamic capabilities, and the necessity for locating the competitiveness of small businesses within the particular context that we are operating within. This then leads into framing the problem statement. And again, within the problem statement, it's not just located haphazardly. She's done the work of reading all these literature. In fact, for the article on Aharanwa 2021, the basic ideas that she probably got from the 16-page article is really this idea of business failure happening due to sustainability strategies not being in place, including dynamic capabilities. So it's building up succinctly to the area that she wants to cover. It's building up succinctly to the context that she's working towards in. And ultimately, we recommend the setting of 2 objectives. Again, go and check with your institution, the primary objective and the secondary objective. And then setting up your hypothesis, which should be similar in terms of the way they are phrased with the objectives, but also just phrased differently. And then in locating the significance of your study. And I think the significance is located in 4 things. Number 1, the significance due to the practice, the significance due to theory, the significance due to policy, and the significance due to the context in which the research was located in. Now, that's different to practice, because practice could be the broader field of study, okay? Small business development, but the context is specific to say, if a manager who runs a small business were to come across your work, what is it that they would do with your work to promote the business that they are running? The theoretical literature, she then identifies the theories that she's working with, the agency theory and the resource-based view of the firm, and then also aspects of organizational learning, which are encapsulated in really the combination of the both. She then does the 2 things, which are also, again, consult your institution, the distinction between the conceptual literature and the empirical literature. So conceptual really is the definition of terms. In this case, she clearly outlines what is meant by a small business. That's where the conceptual literature comes in. What is meant by absorptive capacity, what is meant by organizational learning, what the scholars are saying about the word firm performance, and then moves then into understanding then the empirical literature. Hint, put the label, write the literature. Put the label, write the literature. So the label will tell you it's about capabilities, hierarchy, absorptive capacity, and organizational learning. And then where does it go? It then goes to issues of stipulating the hypothesis. Hence, the study hypothesizes the following. The 2 hypotheses have been put there. She goes to the next one, label, hypothesis. Label is there, presents the literature that she has consulted, then the hypothesis, and so forth, until it then says, okay, in case you are not convinced about what it is that I'm doing, I am going to even draw a model that I'm seeking to test. Now, the model part is an exciting part, particularly for positivists, because then the student at the end can propose to say, no other study has tested this model. My study becomes the first study to test this model. Now, you can't say that unless you've gone through the literature and understood what the literature is all about. So the model becomes crucial, and the model clearly shows the way the hypotheses are. And this is exciting. And I tell you why this is exciting, because next year, in May or June, we will be 6 months with the students to submitting. For each and every one of these aspects that are in the model, we're going to have values and numbers next to them to show if there's really a relationship between absorptive capacity and sustainable development practices, to show if there's really a mediation between organizational learning and capabilities, hierarchy, and financial performance. And that's the exciting part about it, to say this model subsequently becomes the contribution of the study. We then go to the research methodology, where again, stipulate your paradigm. Are you a positivist? Are you an interpretivist? Are you a realist? Are you a pragmatist? We go to the research approach, stipulate your approach that you're using. Are you using quantitative, qualitative, or mixed methods? You then go to the next aspect, your design, the 3 categories: exploratory, causal, descriptive. Again, this depends on your institution and where you're from, but it also helps to know. Population, you stipulate the total population that you're going to work with, because this is a study on small businesses. She stipulates the total number of registered small businesses according to the directory, and the majority are not registered, are survivalist in nature, but the ones that are registered. And uses the Raysoft calculator with a margin of error 5%, 50% distribution confidence level of 95, 377 respondents come out. Your sampling approach that you are using, the instrument, tell us about the scales that you're working with, and she explains what those scales are. Absorptive capacity consists of these items. These are the scales. These are the alphas, the Cronbach alphas of the scale. And validity and reliability, if it's qualitative, she'll be talking about strategies for ensuring integrity. She tells us about the data analytical techniques that she's going to use, the Hayes process micro, the ethical considerations, what adherences is she going to ensure around ethics, and finally, the delimitations and the outline of the study. Now, it differs from proposal to proposal, but for this particular proposal that was presented, she took 7 months to work on the proposal. So around August last year, she went to the department. The department gave her feedback, but okayed it. She went to the faculty at first go, presented. She's now working on the literature review, starting data collection in June. And so that's the type of progress that we want to see, but please do not be fooled. What you see here in front of you, she probably submitted this work to myself and the course supervisor probably 6 to 10 times for us going back and forth, back and forth. Some people give up because of the back and forth. But I think what we're trying to say tonight, we'll make the slides available. Do not give up because of the back and forth. Use it as a way of improving your ideas. Dr. Mashavira, I will now open for any comments, questions that people may have. You can type in the chat box. I can see Professor Mpofu. I was once asked to help in a flight from Turkey. I then instructed our secretary to stop using the word doctor for my air tickets. Yeah, it comes at a peril. Thanks for that. Very informative. Thank you very much. We will make the presentation available to colleagues, but I'm interested in comments, questions, and any engagement around the issue of proposal writing, and then we can use that as a way of actually helping each other. You are welcome to engage.
Yes, colleagues, we can open up for comments, any points of discussions, questions, because I think we're almost, it's almost an hour now, as we've programmed initially. So it's up to us to comment or to question. I don't know what silence would mean, Professor. Could it mean contentment, or could it mean you've confused us more?
Well, we can open it up. We've got some colleagues here who have gone through the process. Prof. Mpofu, yourself, Dr. Mashavira, Dr. Chamba. Yeah, anybody to give commentary as well of experiences, we are more than welcome to share.
I can chip. It's Mrs. Machova. I would like to comment by saying that thank you very much for such a wonderful presentation. Really, to me, it is an eye-opener, although I have already submitted my proposal. However, Prof, there is also a lot that I have also learned from your presentation, meaning that I will keep on trying by all means to make it a point that I attend these sessions, because to me, they are so informative. On that note, I really appreciate from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Majova. We appreciate you being here and wishing you all the best in your studies as well.
Yeah, just as we are waiting for any other comments, Prof, just to let colleagues know that we are going to have quite a number of these presentations or these webinars on various aspects of the research process. So feel free to give us feedback as we go along. Thank you. Any other contributions, questions, or points of discussion before we call it a day?
Yes, can I come in, sir?
Yes, sir. Manuel.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Prof, for the presentation. I've got two concerns here. I didn't see the conceptual framework for on that example that you have given us. Or is it the one that was represented by that model? Because I could see that it was also connecting the variables that the student was researching on. So probably I am not very informed on the difference between the conceptual framework and the model. That's one. Two, along the way, your presentation, you mentioned something like you really have to read. And some people find it as a daunting task to go through journal papers. But when you ended up getting a method of a technique of going through those journal articles without getting drowsy and boring like that, would you like to share your technique of going through journals, taking what you want most? Thank you.
All right. So thank you for those questions. Let's start with the one on the last one on the technique. It's really trying to make reading interesting. If you've got children, one of the things that you try to do with children is to make an activity interesting. And once the activity becomes interesting, and interesting in this case, I go back to Psychology 101, arouses your interest or our interests. When you are studying, you are playing around with all your faculties that you've got. It's not just about sitting and reading line after line. It's about using highlighted pens. I remember in the first year, I actually was printing articles. And as I print an article, and taking a sticker note and putting it there and saying, okay, with the sticker note that I've put there, I need to find ways of trying to make sure that I can summarize what this article is about. I'm going to show you also something just that is fascinating, at least to me, that is also a little trick that you could use. So let's start with here. Let's go here. I'm going to show you an article that we did, which has been published in the journal Frontiers in Psychology. And I want to show you on the screen so that you have a look at it. This is a paper that has been published by Frontiers in Psychology. And it's fairly new. It's a 2022 paper, but yeah, enjoyed working on it. It has all the stuff in terms of the traditional fundamentals of the introduction, the empirical literature, the theoretical literature, the methodology I used, an explanation of the sample base I worked with, the strategies of ensuring integrity, my analytical, ethical, what we spoke about just now. I then share also the results, the implications of the research. So basically, this is a 7,000 to 8,500 word article, okay? Took me about 14 months to work on, eventually got published. I'm very happy. The problem I have is that right now, the idea of me sitting somewhere in the world, knowing that somebody has printed this and is trying to understand all of this information that I've written is really daunting, unless that person tries to use a range of techniques. So what I then do, and you don't have to do this, but I'm going to show you. What I then did is then I met some guys at a platform called The Conversation. And the guys at The Conversation then said that, look, we want to publish this on our website. But Nobody's going to read that entire 7,000 word article. Please go and write it as an 800 word article. Now that was tough for me because I now had to take my 7,000 words and try and turn them into 800 words, which I did right now, and then I sent them. Now, this is where it gets even more interesting. They then do the work of then assisting you to try and show you how you can change your ideas into publishable ideas. So now I'm going to show you where we are with the process. This is now where we are with the process. Where is this? Give me a second. I need to find where Teams is. Zoom actually. Okay, this is where we are now with the process. So now they have been working with me and they've really helped me. But what they've helped me do is to try and make sure that that 800 word article starts to look like this. Okay. So a few minutes ago, in fact, yeah, it's going to be published. And now it's in the format of 800 words, but here's the beauty about this. The beauty about this is that newspapers, journals, media, interviews, and also they are not going to read that article. They are actually going to read the summarized version of this. And have I sold myself out? Not even. These highlighted links, okay, are going to take people to my original article, which is the one that I did earlier on. So what am I trying to say to you? I'm trying to say to you, you need to find out what works for you as a person. What works for me, the use of color. Don't just read, make notes as you are reading, put summaries. If the abstract doesn't tell you anything of significance to the work that you are doing, don't waste time reading it. Start doing that particular activity. The second question you asked was around the conceptual part. Now, these things differ from institution to institution. What I do is that I encourage that the literature be broken down into 3 phases: the conceptual literature, theoretical literature, and the empirical. The conceptual is really paying attention to the key concepts to the study and explaining them. And the theoretical are the theoretical guidelines or the theoretical lenses from which you view the topic. The empirical is looking at what others have done. And then what you saw then later on, that model encapsulates elements of then the framework, the conceptual framework. And I think linked to this is lack of grounding in methodology, a big constraint for the PhD proposal. I think it's an important part of the work that we must do, because a lot of times we spend a lot of time explaining ourselves through the literature, but we must also try to apply the same rigor and attention to trying to assist people to understand how we want to do the research. And I think that's a good question, Nicola, that we need to address. Dr. Mashavira, I don't know if you're still here. You indicated you had to run. So if there are no other questions, colleagues, thank you for attending. What I will do, I'm going to drop my email address in the chat box. So if you would like the slides and some of the material that we were using, please make sure that you also get to me, and we'll be more than happy to send it to you. I've put the slides there, and I hope it will be of benefit. And I think for the next part of the series, Dr. Mashavira will inform us and the Lupane colleagues on the next phases of what we want to do. Okay, thank you very much, and please enjoy the evening. And yeah, for the recording as well, just drop me an email. At least maybe by tomorrow lunchtime, everything will be ready.
Hello, Prof.
Yes.
Okay, Prof, thank you so much. I just joined now. Dr. Ndlovu from Lupane State University. My apology. Dr. Mashavire just called me now. He lost power. So I think the system had to automatically put, through power, it got put out of the meeting.
All right. So thank you. Thank you
Yes.
for letting us know. Thank you.
Yes, maybe just briefly, Prof, let me just say we are so much incredibly honored. I mean, and the privilege to have you around and to take your time, to come and share with us the scholarly academic information, perhaps toward trying to shape our minds as we work on different. We take different avenues, doing different things, trying to, build up and contribute to the body of knowledge. Prof, let me say thank you so much on behalf of Lupane State University. And also I would like to thank all our colleagues who are here attending, listening to the delivery which you have just shared with us. It's quite valuable information, though I joined late, but I'm so much convinced that whatever it was discussed here, it's quite of great value that will actually change the way how we perceive research, the way how we perceive the proposal, how it has to be developed, and everything else. Because to students, you talk about a proposal, it's like, you are bringing up a foreign animal to them that would actually what kill them. But I know that you really did demystify all those perceptions that we held at the back of our minds. Prof, thank you so much for your time. That was quite wonderful. Please keep the door open for us. We would keep on knocking at your doors. And I want to believe that you would always be open on us. Prof, thank you so much.
Thank you, and I will be more than happy to, and I'm wishing everybody all the best. It's a nice way to start the year, especially given proposals really are the entry points to the progress and success of postgraduate studies. So wishing you all the best. Yeah, we'll be more than happy to send you not just the content we've done today, but for all the other times last year and the previous year. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Bye.